com.
Have a news tip? Then call the WYMT News Tip line.
Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the recovery continues for tornado victims living in Taylor County. We'll have the latest update from there. And tensions continue to escalate in Ukraine as Russia puts nearly 100,000 troops along the border.
We've got plenty of cold air in the next 7 days, but some milder moments as well. I'll have all the latest right now at 5:30.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. People in parts of south central Kentucky impacted by the December tornadoes still have a lot of work to do, and the winter weather is making it a slower process. Still, there's already been some progress made, though. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to people in Taylor County about their work.
Over top of that white trailer.
Nevin Price has damage and destruction all around him.
Tore up the house, and the house down here, it wiped it off the foundation.
His house minus the roof was spared, but most of his neighbors have only a foundation left.
We were really blessed. We were really lucky. Good Lord looking over us all the way. Had to be. There's no other word to describe that one.
All around him, though, there's the sights and sounds of cleaning up and rebuilding. All of it is taking place as the weather is not being very cooperative.
It's raining tomorrow, then it's 3 degrees the next day. All our equipment run on hydraulics, so, you know, everything's got to warm up. Everything wants to break in this kind of weather.
But the work goes on.
The other day, I had 3 contractors working here the same day at the same time.
Price has barns and sheds to rebuild. He put a new roof on his house. Hundreds of yards of fence need fixing up. He says it's all a challenge to replace some things lost.
Oh, yes, we're on waiting list for windows and just supplies, period, building supplies.
But he says everyone in his community is going to come back stronger. In Taylor County, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
People tell us they believe it will take at least a year to rebuild what was lost in Taylor County. A big concern this time of year for first responders, frozen ponds and creeks. It's cold enough that some have frozen over, but it's likely thin ice. The Lexington Fire Department is training for ice rescues today. Crews use all manner of tools ranging from boogie boards to ropes and harnesses and even a big boat to practice rescue techniques. Captain Dustin Whited says that they need to be ready to go at a moment's notice.
We train in the elements all the time because things don't quit burning, people don't quit getting sick, there's car wrecks don't stop, and stuff like this doesn't stop just because the weather comes in. So
officials say that you should not go out on ice unless you are certain that it is thick enough, which can be very hard to tell.
And that ice in many spots continues to melt because we've spent so much time the last couple of days above freezing. In fact, we're all above freezing as of right now. And you can thank a touch of sunshine, but mostly some cloud cover for that. Outside from our I-64 camera at Moorhead, you can see a little bit of that snow still on the grassy surfaces. The other story here, we're not seeing any of that rain reaching the ground. Buffalo Mountain here in Perry County, a little bit of a sunset out there as that cloud cover continues to work on in. Mid-40s out there right now. That's where most of us are, mid to upper 40s around the region. It's 48 Jacksboro and Somerset's 51 right now in Monticello. But you go up into the Big Sandy, a little bit cooler, into the low 40s right now. 44 Pikeville and 43 in Logan, West Virginia. Satellite and radar showing we do have a frontal boundary off to our north. That's going to start to introduce the chance for a few showers back to the region as we head later on tonight. It's going to take a little bit because we don't have a whole lot of moisture around to work with. But once we get that moisture in there, a few showers could be possible. And by the end of the night, they could develop into a few snow flurries before all is said and done. So go ahead and download that WYMT weather app and keep it handy if you don't already have it. You'll get the latest radar imagery as we head through the night. You see temperatures getting down into the low 40s and upper 30s by midnight. You're looking at our daytime high for tomorrow, by the way, into the upper 30s. We're only going to be falling as that cold front brings cold air on the backside of it. I'll have all the details on that coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thank you. A man in Carter County is behind bars for allegedly choking a woman. Troopers say they were called to investigate a potential dispute. When they arrived, Stephanie Moore said that she got into an argument with Jimmy Sturgill. She claims he choked her until she passed out unconscious. When troopers found Sturgill, police say he ran. Fish and Wildlife officers were able to find Sturgill and arrest him with no problems. A man charged with a deadly shooting inside a Tennessee Waffle House in 2018 appeared in court today. Travis Reinking killed 4 people when he fired his AR-15 in the Antioch Waffle House on April 22, 2018. His trial was put on hold for months while he was being treated for schizophrenia, but a judge has deemed him fit for trial now. Reinking has pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of murder. He's facing life in prison. Opening statements in the trial are set to begin next week. A new public service campaign is hoping to help with concerns Kentucky parents might have about COVID-19 vaccines for their kids. High Five for Health is by the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky, helping address concerns voiced by parents in focus groups. The campaign also offers answers to frequently asked questions and provides 5 steps for parents to consider when getting their child vaccinated. Healthcare professionals strongly urge parents to download the free toolkit to improve outreach, spark critical conversations, and equip parents with the facts about COVID-19 vaccines. We're starting to see another COVID trend that's a concern to many healthcare workers. Despite cases still going up in Kentucky, the number of people getting the vaccine is going down. Wild Health is working to set up mobile clinics or temporary housing both in our region and in western Kentucky to help get the vaccines to people who do not have it readily available in their communities. The Omicron variant is retreating now in some parts of the United States, but remains relentless in other areas, especially where vaccination rates are still lagging. The surge forced nearly 4,500 schools to cancel in-person learning for at least one day last week. Meanwhile, the first of the federal government's free N95 masks began arriving at some U.S. pharmacies today. Good news for travelers headed to England. You will not need to take a COVID test to enter the country anymore. That is, if you are fully vaccinated. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson made that announcement today. 2 doses of a COVID vaccine are considered fully vaccinated in the United Kingdom. A booster is not required. With athletes landing in Beijing for next week's Olympics, Chinese authorities are taking on strict COVID-19 preventative measures, complete with hazmat suits, masks, and goggles. China's zero tolerance for COVID means it will not be your typical Winter Games. Athletes will be living in a tightly controlled bubble. Anyone entering the bubble must be fully vaccinated or face 21 days in quarantine. The opening ceremony begins next Friday, February 4th. Krispy Kreme is trying to help as the U.S. faces its worst blood shortage in more than a decade. The chain is offering free donuts this week to people who donate blood. To get a free dozen, customers have to order in person and show their donation sticker. They can also confirm their donation on the Red Cross Blood Donor app. Since March 2020, the Red Cross says it has seen a 10% drop in donations. Factors include canceled blood drives, staffing limitations, weather-related closings, and of course, a surge in COVID-19 cases. The U.S. Supreme Court will take on a case looking at race-based affirmative action in college admissions. Justices will hear challenges to policies at Harvard University and the University of North Carolina that use race as one of the criteria to decide admissions. This throws in doubt prior precedents set by the Supreme Court in 1978 and 2003. Lower courts have ruled in favor of the schools, finding the use of race in a limited way fulfills compelling interests in diversity. But challengers argue the practices hurt Asian American applicants. The court is slated to hear the cases in the session that begins next October. A decision would likely come by June of 2023. President Biden is meeting virtually with European allies today amid rising tension in Ukraine as Russian troops remain poised to potentially invade. CBS's Natalie Brand has the latest from Washington.
President Biden returned to the White House Monday ahead of a video call with European leaders to discuss Russia's military buildup on Ukraine's border. The Biden administration is considering sending several thousand U.S. troops and equipment to reinforce the eastern flank of NATO.
The number of forces that the Secretary has placed on heightened alert comes up to about 8,500 personnel.
In Kyiv, the State Department has ordered the families of American diplomats to leave the country. They've advised private U.S. citizens to do the same, along with non-essential American embassy personnel. Additional resources in the form of $200 million of emergency military assistance from the United States has already started arriving in Ukraine. Another shipment of military equipment is expected Tuesday.
We've never ruled out the option of providing additional assistance in advance of an invasion. Those discussions have been ongoing.
Russia released new video Monday showing military exercises near the border. Roughly 100,000 Russian troops are deployed on 3 sides of Ukraine, even as Russia denies that it's preparing to invade. In a village in Ukraine along the front lines, residents like this woman hope for peace, as Putin demands assurances that Ukraine will never be allowed to join NATO, a demand the U.S. and NATO call a non-starter. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Today, NATO outlined a series of potential troop and ship deployments in the region. Sweet treats with sweet sayings. You know the ones. They're called sweethearts. And, well, for your Valentine's Day gift-giving enjoyment this year, you'll find 16 new sayings on the Candy Conversation Hearts. Little words of encouragement, everything from you got this and high five to crush it and you the best. Don't worry, though, the classic sayings have not gone anywhere. You can still ask someone to be mine in sugar form. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, whether it's a business trip or a dream vacation, do you have the protection you need? Next, we'll have one tip that could save you big bucks the next time you travel.
And temperatures look to stay either seasonable or bitterly cold. There doesn't seem to be any in between. We'll have the very latest on the way next.
WYMT News app offers alerts on breaking stories as they happen.